Hello, people. How are you doing? Summertime, more sun, cocktails, fruit smoothies, World War III. What a time to be alive. I hope you're doing well and trying to keep your sanity and humanity browsing this crazy world. I hope a lot of things. I hope you're scrolling less than I do. Do you remember when the first iPhones came out and they had these crazy inventive games where you could drink a glass of beer as you move your phone pretending it's a glass and you could see the beer get less and less? Or there was this one game where you were unrolling a toilet paper roll. I don't know why, because I guess scrolling was a new thing at the time, that gesture with the finger. And I remember we were doing these crazy games trying to roll the paper fast. And I was thinking, wow, who would scroll so much? And here we are scrolling thousands of meters with our fingers. Do you know how much people scroll monthly? Do you want to know? So normies scroll about 100 meters a day. And power users, the ones with brain rot, short reels, TikToks, all of that, people like me, they can reach up to 300 meters a day, which makes 9 kilometers a month. 9 kilometers a month. That's Mount Everest. Mount Everest worth of scrolling monthly that people do. Or, between 3 to 9 kilometers depending on usage. Keep that for your next party. Keep that for the next beer garden, club, or bomb shelter small talk. Wherever we get to be, it's nice to know small facts. So, yeah, I guess I go hiking with my finger. Speaking about the state of the world, perhaps it's now the time where we need to find God more than ever. Perhaps not. But last week, I went to a confirmation event for one of my nephews. Now, a confirmation for my Greek listeners, or anyone who doesn't know the concept. A confirmation is basically a church ceremony for children that are becoming adults. They do it between 12, 13, 14 years old, something like this. And, you were baptized when you were a baby. And now, at that age, you have the confirmation to say that you still believe. That's the ceremony. It's a cool concept, right? And I know there's nothing easier than brainwashing a 12-year-old, but it's still a good move from the church to give a chance to say, hey, I'm still game, I still believe, or not. And I have heard that children do get bribed sometimes. You get a golden cross or whatever after your confirmation, but it's still an interesting concept. Now, for my non-Greek listeners, for the rest of the people you out there, Greeks or Eastern Orthodox, we have nothing like this. We don't do confirmation. This concept does not exist. It blew my mind that it exists when I learned about it, even though if you think after a bit, you're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So, Eastern Orthodox, no confirmation. You arrive to the world, we are like, hello, infant, welcome. Do you accept Lord Jesus as your savior? Yeah? No? No objections? Okay, perfect. Sign here, bring the olive oil, and then we do a baptism a little bit different. We ask the baby, hey, do you know what scuba diving is? Have you done any snorkeling in oil before? Don't worry, you will learn soon. Just don't open your eyes. Bloom, 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 3 times. Usually children don't even cry after the second time they dip them in that full body of water and oil. Do you know why? Because it's shock. They cannot register anything anymore. And now they are assigned. Now and forever. Thank you. Also, the church had this ceremony where they did 5 confirmations, 1 baptism for an infant, and then 1 baptism for a teenage girl. And all these 6 ceremonies happened in the same setup. So we were this mixed audience of all of these people. So that was nice. In Greece, you cannot have multiple things in a church. You book the whole thing. So I enjoyed the concept. It was very efficient. I enjoyed the the German efficiency of having multiple events, like looking at the ceremonies. And the priest played the guitar. He had an acoustic guitar and he played some songs. Now, as a Greek person where our priests are like bishops from Lineage or some other MMORPG game with their robes and their gold things, they go out and they mumble and murmur some things like we are in a hidden cave cult type of thing. Seeing a priest with an acoustic guitar just sit down and give us some songs, that was very refreshing. It felt like, what's the name of the actor? Jack Black? That played all the guitar academy, guitar school movies. You know what I mean. He looked like him. But moving on. The name of this podcast needs to change. It will change at some point. I've thought of a gazillion names from time to time. Others are a bit more doomsday, doom-scrolling brain rot. We're all going to die. We need the aliens to come save humanity. All the way down to I will go grow tomatoes and names that explain a bit more that this podcast is an accumulation of random thoughts, news, and jokes. I'd like to say jokes. Do you ever laugh at this podcast? Who knows? But yes, at some point it will change name. I don't know how you will find me. I'll make an announcement before I change the name. But I'm not rich and powerful enough to reach you with advertisements and whatnot. So when the name change happens, I need you with me to just click 2 buttons, right? In another topic, a few podcasts ago, I prepared the spiders in this house to get ready for summer. And I don't know what's going on, but all the spiders have disappeared. There were so many in the winter, like in the corners, on top of the ceiling. I could see 1 or 2 in each corner having their little webs. And I was thinking them, yes, I give you shelter. I will need you later on. But now they are not there. And there are these annoying fruit flies and little moths that make it in the house. And I'm just thinking, where did the spiders go? Why have they forsaken me? Why does Germany have so many fruit flies and moths? I have been betrayed, and I don't know if you have problems with these little fruit flies that appear. Maybe I should eat the fruits faster, but it's not that nothing is rotting. It's just if you have flowers or fruits, they just appear. But I have no spiders to help me. Like everything in life, we must solve things alone. So now, we're trying different things. That glue paper thingy that they sell doesn't work so much, but it's also very brutal. I don't like that type of ending. I prefer slapping them for a quick death. But none of these things needs to have a place. If you have any hacks about keeping the kitchen away from any flying little annoyances, let me know. With the spiders out, my other option would be to buy a lizard, but then, I would have other problems. But speaking of, Hermes trying to get animals to help him do things that need doing, I promised you to befriend a crow. This is the end game. This is the big one. My end goal is that the crow will follow me from the office all the way home, start a turf war, a gang war with the pigeons, and eventually take over. And 1 week passed since the previous podcast, so I need to update you on what has happened. We haven't had crazy progress, but we had some. I went every day. I placed some nuts. I have seen the crow 3 times in the week, coming in the window. I don't think it likes the nuts I place. I placed 3 different nuts. And once I went and the nut was broken, which means that maybe it was too big, so now I crumble them a little bit more. And I even placed some Coca-Cola caps next to the nuts because they are shining. The crow can see it from afar, and this is a little bit of the conditioning I'm trying to do. But the nuts don't get eaten. I think it eats very little. Maybe it thinks I'm trying to poison it. But the crow comes and visits, so at least we have that going. And let's see where it goes. But one problem I have in my plan, besides the office people thinking I might be crazy, as I keep opening the windows and rearranging the different nuts and putting caps there. They don't even know I have a plan, so maybe they just think I'm doing some voodoo. I don't know how they will know it's me that does it. Because you see, sometimes people come and work at the desks close to the windows. So what if the crow goes there, finds a nice nut, and looks through the window and sees Darren coding his app stuff and thinks, oh, thank you, Darren, you're my friend. No, I am your friend, crow. So now not only the crow needs to come and eat and get the food, but somehow it needs to know it's me. It needs to look through the window, and at that point I need to look back and I will wink and the crow will know it was me. Or, I don't know, maybe I take a photo of my face and print it and then put it outside of the window, like facing outwards. So the crow kind of, sees who puts the food. Maybe I just get the nuts and I rub them on me first, so they get my smell. And maybe the crows, no? Can crows smell? But yeah, maybe I get the nuts and I rub them for the smell, so it's nuts squared. The most interesting thing was, one time I was taking my bike to go home. This is maybe the peak of the week. And 3 crows were just on the grass, jumping a bit around. And one turned its head and looked at me. And I almost had this. You remember back in school when the cool kid or your crush looks at you? And you're like, ooh, don't be weird, don't be weird. What do I do? Try to look cool so it doesn't think I'm lame. So I had a crow turn its head towards me. I want to believe I'm a believer, so I believe this has been a start, and I will let you know. And who knows, maybe in a few months from now, I'll make this a video podcast with the crow on my shoulder. So far, so good. Now, in a very random piece of news, scientists used Monopoly, the game, to prove that privilege actually rewires the brain. And they made this experiment. They divided people into 2 groups. They flipped a coin, and the flip of a coin decided who gets to start rich and who gets to start poor. So the rich player would get double the money every time they passed through the beginning, while the poor player would get less. And as that experiment went through, the people that had nothing to split before, like the same group of people, started having different behaviors, were becoming more rude, they were throwing lines. Even the food that was on the table, the different pretzels that they had to eat, the rich players, they would eat more and they would become more loud and much less compassionate. They would become more confident, and in the end, they would feel convinced that they deserved to win. They all became consistently more loud as they played. They started smacking their piece on the board. They would lose compassion, and they really believed they were better than others. And this was a behavior analysis. Some sociology professors actually make their students play the game like this as an eye-opener of how starting with privilege way down the line, you feel that you deserve it, even though it's pure chance. It's the flip of a coin. The researcher's name is Paul Piff, that did this experiment. He has a documentary called Capital in the 21st Century, and he has also done a really nice TED Talk. But this was an interesting one, and again, the point is that people that had an unfair advantage that was concrete still attributed that advantage to their own skills. They were convinced that they deserved to win. It's almost the same way that, boomers who could pay for a year of college with a summer job, buy a house, buy a car, and live their life in the 70s and 80s, compare themselves as more hardworking than today's college students who are working and going to school year-round with deprecated wages and higher expenses, and they still think they just worked harder. They run this with hundreds of people, this Monopoly experiment, flipping the coin. One gets to start rich, one gets to start poor, and always the rich person would inevitably win. And the people who started rich, they all attributed this inevitable success that was the force of luck, into their skills. It's quite interesting how privilege doesn't just change your circumstances, it literally changed the way people thought. which also is a way to say that the trickle-down effect is a fallacy. Like if the rich get richer, there will be a trickle-down effect. Rich and privileged people don't all of a sudden become more compassionate or choose empathy as they amass more wealth. I don't know why I'm ending with this one. If you've played Monopoly, if you've hated your friends, your family, yourself, and in the end, you should just hate capitalism. But unless you win in Monopoly, then everything is great and you're the best and everyone is a loser. This is how I've felt as well. Now, the last thing I'll share, we talked last time about niches, having a cool niche, and I'm just fascinated by this one guy I now follow on Instagram who does this one thing. He got a rock and he keeps kicking it on the street until it turns into a sphere. This is what he's doing. He just walks down the roads kicking this big rock, and when he's done kicking, he shows the before and after, and then he weighs the rock to show how many grams were lost in the process. So kicking a rock every day until it turns into a sphere, that might be my thing if I had all the time in the world. This has been it. Thanks for tuning in. You are the reason why I do this, and most likely my upbringing and the fact that I'm a middle child that needs attention and love and lost too many times in Monopoly. But this has been it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week. I'm closing. Ciao. Ciao.